everyone. This is Tanya.
Hi, this is Erin, and welcome to Wicked Psychotherapists.
So today we are traveling into Gen X territory. We are going with another Winona movie as promised. If you've been following us, you know that we're obsessed with Winona Ryder at the moment. We have varying obsessions, but right now it's Winona Ryder. So
hmm Yeah, I
we
think
are going to
so.
talk about the movie Reality Bites. And this is a 90s classic, 1994, I believe. Um, and okay, okay, so 1994, and so this was kind of like uh, really a great movie for people who were, graduating college in their early 20s. Around this time, it kind of showed
hmm
the maybe the angst or the need for trying to find like who are we in this day and age after the baby boomers having
hmm
them as parents, and they were went through this whole, I don't know, hippie culture, and then turning into like the 80s yuppies kind of thing and going corporate, and so they're kind of inheriting this you know
hmm
work ethic, but also wanting to be authentic to themselves. Um, so it's such an interesting movie because it's so great. I mean, all the actors in there too are
Yeah,
just amazing. There's Ethan
yeah,
Hawke and Janine
yeah.
Garofalo,
We had to do some
um,
sleuthing
and
for
we
her
just
and
realized
Andy
Renee
Dick. We were like,
Zellweger is in
what?
it at the very beginning. If you
Yeah,
didn't know that little piece of trivia, we were like, like I was
yeah,
astounded. I was like, what?
yeah.
Aaron had told me.
Which is probably appropriate.
Yeah. Yeah, we still can't really figure out where Andy Dick was. Like, it's still, if anybody knows, please let us know. It just says sleazy boss. So, oh my gosh, was he? Did he play when she was interviewing and
Oh,
for
yeah.
jobs after she got let
Ew,
go from the
gross.
production assistant
Ew.
job?
I don't know.
And he was
Maybe.
the one that was like, it was like a rated X kind of movie place, and he was
I guess so. Yeah,
like licking his
that'd
teeth.
probably
Was that
work.
him?
Yeah, because
'Cause he kinda looked
John
familiar to
Mahoney was
me,
her other
so I
boss,
don't know,
so
maybe that
that
was,
would.
like, that's what they meant by sleazy boss, like,
Well, now he's
that, like,
two
just
for
hit me, yeah.
of the three times we've talked about John Mahoney in
Yeah,
the
John
podcast.
Mahoney, and he played a
Two
me,
times
which
he
we
hasn't
don't
been the
like, we
nicest.
don't like that.
So come on, he is the best as Marty and Frasier.
Yeah, yeah, but he ends up being victorious in Frasier, so that's his most beloved role.
hmm
Yes. So this is just like jam packed with so many different, I don't know, classic people. At least for our generation, I feel like, I don't know, they all were. Maybe some people don't know who some of these people are, but yeah, and
No,
a fun fact is that
but
Ethan
Winona
Hawke's
could be like, I worked
daughter
with your
is in
dad.
Stranger Things. She's in kind of like the later seasons, like 3 or 4. Um I know you're not like super into that, but she looks so much like
That's
him to
weird.
me. I know, isn't that weird? Like, hey, I had to make out with your dad, like, and here we are, 30 years later. It all comes full circle. Um, but yeah, it totally is. And he looks like her. I don't know, and Uma a little
hmm
bit, but more like him, I think. Anyway, so this movie we thought was interesting because it talks about finding your path, your identity post college. There's, a group of 4 friends. They're all trying to, find, they just graduated college. Lainey, who's Winona
Yeah,
Ryder, is the valedictorian. She's giving a speech, and she
yeah,
kind of ends up
yeah.
saying,
Because
like,
she's
the
like,
answer to all these
yeah,
problems we
she's flipping
inherited
through
from
her
our
index cards, and
generation
she's like,
is, I don't
I
know.
don't know.
And it's
It's
because
like,
she
yeah, we
kind of
don't
lost her
know.
place, but really, in essence, like, she probably really doesn't know, and nobody really knows.
hmm
Yeah, I don't know if there is an answer. Yeah, but um yeah, so I think that this is a movie that a lot of people can relate to if you're of that generation, and as we were talking about, of the generation now, the Gen Zers. I think they would find some similar points. It would be very different in terms of how they would maybe try to find themselves or find jobs. I don't think there would be an availability of all these kind of creative social media content creator type jobs, or even just virtual jobs, to be able
Hmm.
to find yourself. Um, but I think Lainey is really struggling with finding meaning. She really wants to,
Yeah.
make something of
Yeah.
these
And to
home
be,
videos that she's making of her friends.
yeah, to be
And she really,
remembered
I think she just
too.
wants
And
to
that's probably
contribute something
also
to be like,
why
oh, I
she's
have a unique
doing the
perspective in this world
documentary,
and it's being
to
recognized. And
have it
I
on
think a
some
lot of Gen
platform,
Zers can
whatever
kind of
it
relate
is.
to that.
She wants PBS, but to have it remembered and to show people, this is what I'm seeing. This is how I see my friends. This is how I see our generation struggling to find jobs or going into adulthood.
Yeah, it's really kind of interesting to see all the different characters. There's Ethan Hawke plays Troy, who's kind of this like disaffected genius type who doesn't really care about,
Hmm.
how, like, if he has like a high power job or makes a lot of money that has a lot of prestige. He doesn't even care to finish college. He's just like, nah, I don't need it, and just works at a gas station, smokes some weed here and there, or a lot actually, I think, in the movie. And yeah, and there's kind of some tension between him and Winona, Lainey. I keep forgetting her name. But Vicky, Ginny Garofalo, is Lainey's best friend, and um, there's just a lot of interactions, a lot of things where it's showing them, you know, um, Ethan's Ethan Hawke's character is very
Hmm.
much kind of like, he can't really get involved. He can't commit. He kind of has a string of, I think, as Lainey termed it, like empty bimbos or something, empty-headed bimbos, something like that. He kind of doesn't really have like anything where anybody would really get to know him. And then um, she she starts
Hmm.
dating Ben Stiller, who's another person that um, appears in this, uh, who's kind of more of like the typical kind of what they would term as a yuppie. He's very corporate. He's got
Yeah, he's
a
nice.
very high end job. He wears
Well, that was her
suits.
fault. Yeah, she
But
threw a
he's
cigarette and
he's pretty sweet, I think. Don't you think
yeah,
he's?
it's
I
just,
don't know.
yeah,
I
you
think
don't expect her to start dating
he's
him
kind of
though, but it could
caring. I
also
mean, he
be
does crash into her
total
car,
polar
but that was
opposite of
kind of her
the
fault, I
people she
guess, for
hangs out
throwing the
with and who
cigarette.
she may have dated before or liked. And here's somebody who's buying her lunch or dinner and paying attention to her, and when she's not having to, you know, put all the effort as she seems to have to do for other people she's dated or liked.
Yeah, and even kind of like, just,
Hmm.
yeah, being different from her friends. I think she's kind of curious and kind of like, oh, this is kind of what I always thought I didn't want, but I think she's kind of investigating that part of her life, sort of. Um, and Vicky, who we both agree is an awesome character, she's fun. She's kind of like super into 70s stuff.
Xanadu
She
or
has like,
Grease.
doesn't she have like a poster of
Yeah, Grease.
John Travolta in what's the, oh my god, I can't even think of the
Pulp
name of the
Fiction.
movie, where he's the the the,
Oh my gosh.
not
Something
not
Fever.
Grease, but the, like, he's where he's in the,
I don't know. I don't.
no, it's like in the it's a 70s movie where he's like, I can't think of
Yeah,
it. It's
if
like
you're
something.
screaming
It's
at
like
us right now,
Dance Fever,
yeah, I
Last
feel
Chance.
like it's,
I'm thinking. I don't know what I'm thinking, but you all know that
yeah.
iconic
You'll
movie
see it.
that
You'll
John
see
Travolta was
him. You'll
in.
see him doing the hand things that Tanya was doing
Yeah,
that
it's,
you can't
I
see
tend
because
to
we're on a
forget. Like,
podcast.
well, it's in the movie. It pans over on the poster, and she's got like yeah, my rendition
Yeah.
exactly. But like she's obsessed with like 70s culture, and she's also kind of goes through like a series of one night stands that she keeps track
Mhm.
of in her
Yeah.
diary, and then we learn that she's kind of afraid she's getting tested at the clinic because she might have like AIDS. That was kind of, at a high point
Mhm.
at that time, like that fear. Um,
Yeah. And then yeah, and then
and
yeah, and then Lainey
I
kind
think,
of says, "Well, you
she's,
kind of do
you
this
just kind of see
not
the
in this
reality
not
of the
do it
fact
to
that she really
yourself,
feels
but
alone.
you push
She
everybody
tells
off. Like
Lainey,
you're not never
I'm just
trying
so
to
afraid I'm
have a
alone.
relationship." So
Um,
there probably is some reason why Vicky does have like these one night stands and isn't really ever saying like, let's have a couple dates before, let's get to know each other,
yeah.
let's continue after. She's like, nope, because then there's probably the chance of connection, chance of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which is so ironic because I think in the friend group, they all kind of are striving for this feeling of like authenticity. What's my like meaning in life? But they really struggle with making connections with people. And I think that's kind of a big part of some of the struggle in this movie and kind of finding your identity and realizing that it's okay to,
Right.
like someone who is in a corporate job or even want to be paid a lot
Yeah.
for,
I mean, yeah,
a job that you do,
yeah, I
as
know.
long as you can find
I'm Gen
meaning
X,
in it,
and it took
which
me a
is
while to
probably something
realize,
that I
like,
think
okay,
Gen
well,
Xers probably had to
it's
accept along the
okay.
way. If they were
It's
kind of in
okay to
that
make money.
idealistic loop.
It's okay to, you're not a sellout. It's a, it's, it is. It's weird. It's a weird balance. But now, like now
Yeah.
that I'm
Yeah.
older, like I feel like it's like almost full circle. So now I'm, like doing therapy, doing it at home. I'm able to do stuff I like, plus have fun in between. So I'm like, hey, when I'm not seeing clients, I can go outside or go in the garden or do stuff, like do whatever I want. Like it's like I don't have I don't have a boss right over my shoulder or telling me what to do. So it's kind of like full circle for me.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that a lot of people and not, of course, not just Gen X, but like I think this is just capturing that struggle of we don't want
Yeah.
to
Mhm.
embrace our parents' baby
Yeah.
boomer generation who went from being hippies, flower children to like corporate yuppies kind of thing. And we don't want to be materialistic like, all the 80s kind of that they
Yeah.
experienced growing up, and they were, probably trying to go against that, but at the same point, you can't go so far idealistic where you're not caring about, actual survival and
Mhm.
things like that. Um and it was kind of interesting where, Lainey was saying, I just wanted to, it meant something to me, this documentary. Can't speak today. Sorry. There's a podcaster who says documentary, and I started saying that because I've heard her say it so many times, but documentary. Um
Yeah.
and like her,
Real
when
world.
she ends up starting to date the corporate guy Michael, and he decides to hand it over to his corporate company, they really make a mess of it. They cut it up and they make it all like real world and all that stuff, like the MTV kind of like,
Yeah. She's
and they're
yeah.
misquoting,
She's
they're
like, I never
cutting out
said
things and
this.
like
This
cutting the
isn't my
things and saying
movie.
the meaning of life is pizza, pizza, and it's just like making a mockery of all the things that she wanted to show. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really bad. It just kind of show like I forgot about how much of
Oh
for reality
yeah.
TV,
Yeah,
how
well,
much
and
they
also
would
like,
do
going
cuts like
back to
that, like
the real
really
world
severe
thing,
cuts
like that
where
was
it
like
would
the
show
first
things
like
so out of context. And like I
real
know they still
reality,
do it,
well,
but like it I think
reality if
that
we
was
say,
an era
but
where
where
they really
you're
took some
watching people
generosities
and
in
you're like,
that,
well, what's going to happen? Who, who's going to get in a fight with who, or so that was like it makes sense that
Mm.
they edited it that way and showed Lainey like this crazy view of it.
Yeah, it was really kind of it was kind of nostalgic because you kind of saw the way um even in that clip where Lainey's watching TV and it's like
Right.
MTV fashion and it's like yeah, it's like the bandana for Crips and Bloods, Donna Karen only $75, which was like an insane amount of
Yeah.
money
Yeah.
at that point for
The
like a
fashion.
just a scarf and
But
they're having like, they're kind of glorifying, you know, hip hop gangster culture kind of, and
mhm.
saying like, what yeah, and
Yeah.
and just kind of yeah, it's ridiculous because um and it really was like that. It truly was. It was. There really was that era of like it just went insane, and not like we don't do it now with other things, but that was for that period of time. Um but yeah, I think that this was really about kind of fighting against some of these, you know, perceived mistakes, barriers, whatever it is that of the generation before them and finding, their identity. Lainey trying to figure out which partner is better suited for her, which
Yeah.
I don't really like this, but it consequently kind of leads to
Yeah. Well, and it's
like
also
her
like
choice and
I
what
don't know
guy
why
she
she had
sees
to
is
choose
kind of what
either
we're
of them
like
because
supposed
neither
to
were
think is
really
like
nice.
what she
Like
wants to
because
be.
Michael
And I guess
ends
that
up
makes sense, but it also kind of annoys me a little
letting
bit
his
now when I think
company
about
edit
that. Like,
her movie in a way that she didn't want it, and Troy is so mean to her with like how she, what she's wearing, who she's dating, what she's doing, like just very I don't know. He's not very nice to her throughout most of it. And it, like of course we go I'm like wishing like why can't there be a third option for
yeah,
Lainey? Like
he's a
what if Lainey decided not to date anybody and just decided to figure out how can I get my movie to PBS or how can I do what she originally wanted to do instead of having a guy a part of it? That would have been even better. Like then that would have been like hey, reality can be you get to not be stuck with either of these guys.
yeah, yeah, or like your path is not based on what person you're dating, and I feel like of the in that era that was kind of always how women were portrayed was like, oh, okay, they're
Yeah.
independent and they're free and they kind of have to fight some things in the patriarchy. Like she's kind of like telling her dad in the beginning like, don't treat mom like a child, and I don't want your BMW, or she doesn't want your
Yeah.
BMW kind of thing. But at the same point, she's
Mhm. Oh
also
yeah,
kind of like
definitely. Yeah,
it also
there
kind of
was
gives
like a
the
strong
impression that she
female,
like
but then
needs
it's
to be with
also
a guy,
she's
and
defined
that kind
by
of
who she's
goes
dating or
against
who
it a
she's
little
going to
bit. And that
marry
was
or
a
who she
lot of
has a
those
crush
movies
on,
of that era and before,
which
like for
it's
sure,
nice
and
that
still even now.
in movies today we're not seeing that as much. I mean, cuz I love Delaney. I love who she was and I liked her style and I just thought she was just really
Yeah.
cool. And even like giving Michael a shot and like that one part where she has that white dress on and she's so excited she got this. It's not usually her style, but she's stepping out and she's trying something new and she thinks it's pretty and then Troy is just like, "Oh, you look like you're wearing a doily." Which is like, it's so mean and it's just like instead of just being like, "Oh, that's nice," or have fun, of
Yeah, he's a doily. That's so
course he's
mean.
going to say something. But it is. It's like it is like a you wonder like what is going on with Lainey's like self-esteem, self-worth, like what, at that moment that she, because even like with
Yeah.
Troy is like saying that, she's like, oh, well, I'm going to go change. And then Michael's like, no, you look beautiful. And he's like thinking like, I'm the one dating you. Why do you care what he's saying? Why do you care what, why is Troy getting in your head? Like, let's go. You look really nice. And it took her a moment. Yeah.
Yeah. And then Troy's like, "Now don't go
Yeah.
thinking for yourself." Like he is really a jerk. He's a DB. Yeah. He really is. You all know what I'm saying. We're trying to keep it kid
Mhm.
friendly here, okay? Or just friendly. But
Yeah.
yeah, it is. I hated that. I was so like, oh well, like when she stepped out, I was like, she looks cute, and like she's got like the red lipstick and she's like this little, the little waif gal, and she's just got a pretty face
Yeah.
and um, she just looked nice. It just was like different from kind of the grunge kind of wear that she normally like, had on. But uh I thought I was like, oh wow, she looks nice. And then yeah, it just kind of sunk that moment. And I don't know. I think we were talking about this earlier, but I think Troy, the character, would have appealed to me when I was younger. But I think
Yeah.
Michael, like if there were a choice between the two, I think Michael would now
Well,
appeal to me more because
yeah. Well, he's
he
not
is
sleeping on
actually like he
he's not
seems to
sleeping on someone's
by all
couch.
means, he
He has
seems
a
to be a pretty
job.
decent
I mean,
guy,
those are
even though
pretty
he is
good
kind of
things
in
to
like a
look for
corporate
in a
job.
guy.
He's not rude and he's not
you know,
like
yeah.
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 Yeah, and he seems to
Mhm.
care though too. Like he lets her go, like for the insurance thing. He's like, you seem nice, and like, yeah, he probably likes her, but still, he's not like trying to go after money anywhere he can see it. He's not like litigious and a jerk like that. And he also is like,
Right. I was
I don't
trying
know.
to
I know
help
like
you.
the his company,
Yeah, he's like, I was doing it because I
messes up
saw that you were
her
talented and I just wanted to
documentary,
share
but
it.
it
And
kind of
yeah,
seems
I
like
mean,
he
he
was
is
like,
a
oh man,
he
I didn't know they were gonna
does
do
seem like
that.
a
Like I didn't
decent guy
I don't
as
think he was
far
like in
as,
full control.
especially if we're
Yeah.
comparing the two of them. It's, like
Yeah.
he does seem like he can be sweet, but yeah, there's also something about him that doesn't appeal to Lainey. Like, like maybe
Yeah.
he's not as edgy as she has always dated, or maybe that's something that she's afraid to look inward because maybe that's what she really wants. Maybe she wants somebody who has money, who's financially secure or already in their career. Hmm.
Yeah. And I think there's just not the same like physical attraction and just like kind of
Yeah.
like connection that she has with Troy. Like she just is kind of they're kind of similar in their thinking. They just kind of have that
Okay.
thing, that I don't know, you just kind of feel in someone else. But I'm trying to picture now,
Okay.
like say okay, and this is so ridiculous, but I did try to project into the future with this movie and these fictional characters. And I was like, say they ended up together, right? Troy and Lainey. Like, what does he end up doing? Do you know what I'm saying? Like she seems like she would continue to pursue her documentaries, like kind of media pursuits, maybe have moved into like social media type stuff, digital media, whatever. I feel like that would be a safe bet with her. She seemed pretty driven. She was connected to that. But with Troy, like, does he still want to go after being in a band and like kind of half-assing
I
it?
don't
Sorry,
know.
like just kind of,
Or is he on the lazy boy drinking a
I don't
beer
know, or
every
does he like
night
pick
when
up
she
and
comes
kind of
home
do
from
something and then get
work,
into like a very rigid
and
work ethic and
he
then kind of
hasn't,
throw
and he keeps
himself into
saying he's going
work
to look for a
sort of thing?
job
Like that's what I kind of picture with
20
him.
years later? I don't, that's what I picture.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
that's kind of more what I lean towards. But
Yeah.
I do know. I mean,
Or
some people can
with the
like pick
death
it
of
up
his
and be like,
father,
okay, and they just kind of
you know,
have like
after he
a
finishes
lag. But
mourning or whatever, it
with him,
doesn't seem
I
like they
kind
had a
of
great
he seems
relationship.
kind of like
But does that make
he
him
would lag
realize, like,
a
okay,
little bit.
well, maybe I
I don't
need
know.
to figure out who I want to be and, you know, get a job or get a trade or something? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It could have been like the catalyst to kind of give him like the kick in the pants, to be like, all right, get going. And I think that's kind of the one of the themes of this movie is like, what is it that kind of makes you come to realize that,
Yeah.
no matter
Well,
what, you have to be in reality, no matter how you kind of deal with it. Is that you get a job where you're just like, oh, I'm just not going to try so that I
yeah. Well,
don't have
well,
to live
you kind of have
in that
that.
kind of world,
You kind of get
where
stuck,
everything is
right?
about
You,
competing,
if you
or is
don't
it kind of like,
move forward,
do
like
I go
we
corporate and
all have
go
seen the
see my full
people who
potential?
like
Like, you know what
get
I mean? I
stuck,
think
like
there's
the
kind of a lot of
townies or
those
whatever, who
questions.
like after high school or after like or whatever, just kind of get stuck. They're just you know time time doesn't like just kind of stopped with whatever age they were, like 18, 19. They're still probably wearing the same type of clothes, listening to the same music, living in their parents' basement or whatever they're doing. And it's probably still smoking pot all day. And it's just like what you
Oh
wonder
yeah.
what happened, or why did they decide to just stay? What made them not progress to adulthood? And that's probably like with Troy. It's like he did move out, but he's just kind of like floating. He's like living on people's couches and doing this and just not really making that full commitment past high
Yeah.
school. Because you and I talked before, I was going to say session, before our podcast, that that like at their age, high school was just a few years before. I know they just graduated from college, but just like 4 or 5 years before that, they were just high schoolers. So, and it sounds like Troy is still like stuck in between. And a lot of people get stuck in between. And sometimes people don't have that push to either realize that
Yeah.
they are stuck because they have other people in their life that keep supporting them, family
Yeah.
members or other friends or other people, that they really have no incentive to fully become adults.
Yeah, that's a really good
Yeah.
point. Yeah. And I think with Troy, he's like I mean, he's known to be very intellectual, but to be kind of against the system, like kind of antisocial in that regard, like kind of, I'm not going to follow the prescribed path of, that society
Mhm.
gives to me. But I think what you're saying, yeah, at the end, you do see
Yeah.
him kind of change a little bit.
Mhm.
And who knows, if this was just a temporary thing or if this actually did, can definitely give someone
Yeah.
a, fresh set of eyes to be like, wait a minute, what the heck am I doing here? We don't have that long. And, he didn't even know his dad too well, right? Because we learned that in the movie. And yeah, it may kind of be like, I may as well give
Mhm.
what it is I
Yeah.
have. It doesn't matter if this looks
Yeah.
like, it's inauthentic or it's not helping the
Yeah.
world and this and that. It doesn't matter. Like, I still have
And
this
that's
this
interesting that you just said that too,
life
because I
to live,
wonder if
and
each of
something
the
to
characters,
do with it.
like
So it's kind
Sammy,
of like
Vicky,
reality.
Troy,
Reality has
and
struck him,
Lainey, like the main
like,
ones, if
yeah,
there was a
this is
point
not
where reality hit them
um
all. Because I know, so Troy's was probably like when his dad died, and like then he came back and he realized, like, oh well, I really do want to be with Lainey. I don't want to just date around. And then you see Lainey's with, definitely with the figuring out, okay, well, I want to work. I definitely do want to have my oh my God, now I can't say the word. Doc, doc, documentary. Oh my God, I hate you. Yeah. But the documentary that she had,
I put it
that
in your
now
head.
she
See,
realizes,
it's
like, this is what I
I don't
want.
know.
I
Every
want
time
to
it
have
get
this
yeah,
produced.
when
I
you hear
want to,
that,
this
like
is, I really
it'll
want to
have
see
you
this
saying it because
happen.
it's such a weird way
And so
to
you
say
see
it.
that
Yeah.
adulthood. Sammy is when he comes out with his parent, comes out to his family. So it's really hard and trying. And, so that is really his, probably his big reality thing. Like, and with Vicky, I don't know. I think it's
Yeah.
twofold for her. I think it's when
Yeah.
she gets her management for Gap, because that's huge. Because and then she realizes, like, this is my career. I want to.
Mhm.
I really love this. I'm so proud of myself, and I really want. This is what I want to do. I want to be a manager of Gap, and I want to do and work in retail.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
also, I think getting the negative test from when she got the AIDS test. I think those were two big things, because then that might have made her realize, like, oh, maybe I should be more conscious of who I'm sleeping with, or what I'm doing, or what safety I'm putting in place.
Mhm.
So I do think each character, each of those four main characters, probably do have, like, it's not like they're not saying like reality bites like each time, but I think they are having different points of
Yeah.
adulthood and reality come in.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I didn't think of it that way, but that is a really good perspective. I
Hmm.
think you're right. I think that really is kind of where like they have those like transition into like, I don't want to say transition into adulthood, but kind
Right.
of like where they kind of realize, hey, this is what I need to take on. I don't have to be unhappy
Right.
about it. And yeah, I have to accept some like prescribed rules and like
Hmm.
norms and stuff like that of society. But it doesn't mean that I'm fully compromised. I can still be who I want to be. Vicky can still be, kind of her quirky self, and I think she's hilarious. And Lainey can still, be getting great
Hmm.
footage of her friends and kind of the struggle that she's capturing of that generation and finding
Yeah.
um, their identity and who they are after college. And with Troy kind of Troy finds it at the very end, so we don't really know.
Yeah.
But I'm
Yeah.
sure. I mean, hopefully, I guess we're hoping maybe that
Yeah. And
kind of
he's
was a change for
yeah,
him.
and
And
he
Sammy, of
seems so
course, you're
sweet
hoping
too.
his
He's just,
parents will come to
I
their
like I like
freaking
Sammy.
senses because
He is. He's
yeah,
he's a good,
um,
like, he's like
that's
the
just ridiculous because
like
he
the
he didn't he
friend
obviously
that
didn't do
they don't
anything wrong
really
there.
highlight a lot in the, but he's like always there, and he's just
Yeah,
he's like the
he's such a
cheerleader
good
for
friend.
everybody.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah. He really is. Like he was so
Yeah.
happy when Vicky got her negative test result. He was just like, "Oh my gosh," and he was like always there. Yeah, he was
Yeah, that
really
you would notice if
um
they weren't part of the
one of
group.
those, yeah, like cornerstone friends that like maybe is kind of in the background, but is actually like a really
Yeah.
great friend that you would really really miss.
Yeah. And that's sad. And it's sad that that
Yeah,
happens, or
yeah.
happened a lot back
It's
then,
so
and
it's so
probably and
sad when
still
he's sitting out
happens
in front of his
today,
parents' house and he's like, I just want to go
when
home. Like I just want to be able to be let back inside the house. Like yeah, that honestly like I used to feel
yeah, they're
I
your
mean I
children. They're
still
still
do of
your
course,
children.
but like it was a huge point of like
Yeah.
empathy for me. I used to feel so like
Yeah.
I just don't get it. And like, oh my gosh, these people, they feel yes. Like what? Why would you do that to your kids? I still
Yeah.
don't get it. But I feel like yeah, those were big things I think back in that movie. Not that again, not that it's not, but I think
Hmm.
it was in a different stage, kind of accepting if
Yeah.
somebody
Yeah,
was
that was in
gay
the
or
height of it too.
had
Still.
was not heterosexual. Uh, but and then also the AIDS epidemic was still in pretty full swing. Yeah, yeah. I actually just saw something. This is so weird, but this is before we even were going to watch this. We're planning to watch this movie, but I saw something that I think I posted on Instagram that was like there was this camp for kids that um was established like I don't know 30 years ago or something, or maybe in the 80s, maybe 40 years ago in the 80s. But that was for kids who had
Yeah, I
HIV
saw.
and or AIDS,
Yeah,
and that they were
I saw
shutting
you
it
post
down
that. I
because
thought that
it's
was
just
great.
been it's
I
had such a
that's
the
that's like what you
uh
they probably
the
wanted.
medication
Like when
has
they
just been
opened the
so
camp, they
effective
said they
because
probably
there's
like
just
how a
not
lot of
enough people for it,
places are
and
like,
it's
okay, we're
great,
here
like
until we're not needed anymore. But they never realize that it's going to really actually come to fruition. So that's really awesome. That's great. That yeah.
yeah, that's like one of those things you want to hear that they're out of business. Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. Yeah, and so I mean, it just kind of shows the difference in the time period, right? The things that were really, at the height like of,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
now it's
Yeah.
I don't really know what a maybe like COVID thinking about that, but
Mhm.
that's not quite the same. I don't know, but it's just very different, I think, where we're at in the timelines with those things. Um, but still obviously difficulties with those things. But yeah, I do think it was and oh my god, Ethan Hawke and his green eyes. Oof, oof, he was very cute. He was very cute. But I oh, he disappeared. Oh, I can see you, but now I can hear you. Yeah. This is strange because wasn't this what we were experiencing like I don't know, like a few months ago or like 6 months ago or something, or last year? I wonder, were you able to see me and to hear me? Okay, so it must be mine because mine was glitching before. It's not popping up with the message, but that doesn't mean anything. But yeah, so I was just saying about Ethan Hawke and um yeah, he was like the delight of I don't know, I had a huge crush on him. I know he kind of disappeared sort of like he had a few more things and he kind of disappeared, but I liked him, man. He was a cutie. But his character okay. Okay. Was it recording the whole time? I don't know either. I don't get how this thing works, honestly. Um, so yeah, I guess we can just have like a chunk of it where we're just like, sorry, technical issues. um, yeah, he was a cutie. But I think this movie is I hadn't watched it in a while. I probably watched it probably in maybe the early 2000s was the last time, maybe late 90s, I don't know. Um, but rewatching it again was interesting. I forgot about a lot of it, and it was just a different perspective. Yeah, me too. Yeah. Using her dad's gas card that he's gonna pay. Yes. Oh my gosh. I didn't either. I was like, wait, that doesn't sound right, but I went with it. I can't even say documentary, so I don't know. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I don't think I ever saw that movie, but I do remember him being in it with Ashton Kutcher, right? Yeah. Yeah, he's a youngin'. They're all young. It's so nuts to see them like how yeah, they all are this was like 30 years ago and they were in their 20s. So, yeah, it's just really different. And then the fact that Andy Dick is in there, we didn't know that, and Renee Zellweger, just very small appearances, but like that they were David Spade, yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh. David Pierner from Soul Asylum. This was funny. Uh-oh. I don't know if he wrote it. I think it was actually written by it said by a woman who was in her 20s who had gone through a similar experience, and I can't think of her name right now. It was a cool name though. I can't think of what who it was, but I don't think he wrote it, but he directed it. Yeah. And this is kind of his first transition from like comedy like specials to this. So that's a pretty good make. But yeah, it was yeah, yeah. It was based on like her experiences of like finding yourself in your 20s and stuff. But it's just interesting to see how like a generation defines itself and what are like the ideals, what are the things that are considered selling out or inauthentic or whatever terms are used. Gen Z, we already used them. Okay. But there's already I'm not trying to, be point that out. I'm just saying like it's different, and then, I'm sure the baby boomers can be like, whatever, Gen X, these are the things that we did and we use. It's like it gets repeated just in different ways. And with depending on what's going on. Yeah. Yeah. So I think it was just nice to this is a movie that if you're into like Gen X, or if you just like the point of it, if you're just kind of curious, if you like the actors or the actresses, just go check it out. We we like it being you know, basically Gen Xers. I'm kind of on the cusp, but basically a Gen Xer. Um and I think it really is just it really tells you a lot about how much things have evolved and how much they have not. It's kind of the same thing. I was thinking, while watching it, I was like, wow, I've definitely heard people who are in this latest generation or just younger people saying, some of these things that they're talking about in the movie that are worries and struggles and everything, just maybe with different language. Oh, I was definitely talking to myself for like a minute, and then I was like, "Oh, whoops," because it showed you still is there, but then I realized you had paused, and I think it had already booted you out, and it didn't like show it. That's what mine said before, and yeah, and I did have the bars. That's why I was like, "That's weird." I don't know. I think Riverside is kind of something is going wonky with it. Yeah. Oh, maybe. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I didn't even think of that. That's definitely yeah. With the Yeah, because there is a Riverside, California, for sure. Yeah. Well, yeah. So maybe it is. A lot of things are being affected, even if it's not directly with the fires, the smoke, and everything. And who knows? Yeah. Yeah. But so yeah, I did want to kind of transition over into our fun question, and I was going to ask what we already discussed. Would you rather Troy or Michael? We already answered that, but now I'm kind of wondering. I guess this is more of just kind of a, I don't know, whatever question, but do you think that you can relate more to Lainey or Vicky's character? Yeah, I mean overall I think her character is kind of like she definitely I think falls hard, but she also is like somebody who wants a lot of meaning out of things, you know what I mean? So, yeah. Yeah. I think that's why that's what I connected with her. Like I can relate probably more to her kind of just overall, I think, in general. Not necessarily for like just the like chain smoking now and like calling 900. I don't do that now. Not that, but just in that connection point and kind of feeling like, okay, I feel like I need to have this deeper meaning, but like I can also feel the loss kind of hard too. Um, yeah. I don't know. I don't know, but I hope not. I know. I wonder if that even makes sense to people, like young people now. Oh my god. Or who was the Jackson? One of the Jacksons was like kind of a psychic too. One of the sisters. Latoya. Yeah, she oh my gosh, yeah, and Dionne Warwick and um so I did get in trouble with a friend, and she knows who she is. I've mentioned her before in here. You know who it is. Who we did end up calling a bunch of like 900 like astrology numbers, I think it was, at her house when there was landlines, and that costs a lot of money if you don't know that. And her mom was pretty upset and was like, "You guys are gonna have to make up like chores and stuff like that." And we didn't end up really. She didn't really make us do it, but she was understandably upset about it, because we racked up quite the bill. Just yeah, so we were jerks. But yeah, I also did that at my yeah. It's just it's just is so appealing. It's like it'll tell you about yourself. Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, it was probably some insane rate. Um, but yeah, so that's kind of the question that I have. But this was really fun walking down Gen X Lane and seeing our favorite Winona and then some other favorites as well, some nice green eyes and stuff like that. But yeah, let's close it out, and we hope you enjoyed this. Let us know what you think. Let us know if you want to watch it, or if you have watched it, or if you watched it again, and if that kind of changed your perspective the way it did with both of us. um hmm, that's the most important question, yes, because we are on a Winona kick. But somebody else that we mentioned and what he's in now, Steve, what's Steven Zane? I was like Steve Zane, yeah. Yes. So we might you might be hearing about that a little more in the future, just a little hint hint, or flat out just telling you. Yeah. Yes. It's so good. We were just talking about how good it was before we started up. Yeah. Yeah, you really come to like empathize with him and see him and yeah, care about him. But yeah, so don't forget to follow us on the socials. You know what they are at Wicked Psychotherapist, the Wicked Psychotherapist. Subscribe, leave us a review. 5 stars really helps with the algorithm. And don't forget, stay wicked. Bye, guys.